Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tabletop Transformations, where we talk about spirituality through tabletop role-playing games. Over there, that's Tanya Keenan. Where are you?
I'm over here.
You're over there. No, you're over there.
And you're over here for me. Anyway, this is Menachem Combe. He is a spiritual director and interspiritual rabbi and a tabletop game designer. You have so many hats. What is that?
Or bandanas.
Right.
Yeah, and Tanya is a mental health clinician focusing on youth work and working through a community mental health agency. She's an avid gamer, which is no surprise since we're here. She's been playing role-playing games for over 20 years. And
this is her first time.
Yeah, right. We don't know what we're talking about. It's our first time.
What am I doing here?
She is the director of a con called DoxaCon Seattle, a convention that explores the intersection of science, fantasy, fiction, and Christianity. And awesome. Who's with us? Wow.
We have Pete.
Yeah, Pete Petrusha. Welcome, Pete.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really cool. I really hope that this leads to like a weekly thing that I can download on my phone, because I would love to listen to this and each and every guest who pops in to talk about cool ways they're using their games.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Plan is monthly, but thank you. We are so
I'm just saying. I hope we get there.
Wow,
you're freaking honored that you're our first guest.
Yes, and you're dreaming big for us. That's great.
There you go. That's what I do. Yeah. Setting goals.
Tanya, tell us more about Pete.
Okay, well, Pete is I don't know Pete as well as you do, but it's okay. I'll tell you more. Pete's a tabletop, a role-playing game enthusiast. And lover of all things pretend. Oh, yes.
I am.
You're an indie game designer, a tabletop RPG promoter, and the creative director at Imagining Games. The driving force behind Dreamchaser. Thank you very much. And Rest in Pieces and Chew, the role-playing game, which I'm super excited about too.
Based on the award-winning Image comic.
Yes.
Get it soon.
That's right. Is it on pre-order right now?
It is. Go to GameFound or go to imagininggames.com and press the announcement banner.
Ooh, excellent.
Link is going up.
Please. I love this. Keep going.
Okay. Let's see. You promote tabletop RPGs at a variety of conventions throughout the country. Awesome. And you lead an indie games on demand movement in your local area. Your local area is
Northwest Indiana.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Cool. I have friends in Indiana. Anyway, you're the Midwest affiliate for Indie Press Revolutions, a staff writer at Gnome Stew. Nice.
Great gaming blog if you haven't looked at it.
Sure.
Nice.
I'm biased.
And the former host of the Indie Groundbreaker Awards. You can find out more about Pete, Imagining Games, and all their titles at www.imagininggames.com.
Yeah.
And we're going to put all the links in the chat.
Thank you so much. That was really nice.
Thank you.
I'll make sure that whoever wrote it though shortens it next time.
Okay. That's fine. You know.
There's a lot to say about you.
I didn't know,
but it sounds so good when you say like and Chew, the role-playing game. It felt very much like it was like in the actor's studio, because like and creator of Chew, the role-playing game. It sounds very pretentious. That's
Tanya.
You hear somebody say it out loud. It's great.
So Dreamchaser is one of my favorite games to run, and I really enjoy playing it. And I was looking on Facebook, and I got a memory yesterday that was 5 years ago yesterday that I posted about the game. And I said, everything I read and see about this game is inspiring. And as soon as I saw and read through the game on Kickstarter, I was like, you could use this game for personal exploration, personal discovery. And I wrote Pete immediately. And I ended up play testing the game. I edited part of the book, and I ran the game for a bit of conventions, and probably will again when I get back to conventions. And then over a couple of years, Pete and I talked a lot, but Pete got therapists, social workers coming to him saying, how could I use this game one-on-one in sessions with my clients? Because they saw the same thing I had seen in the game. And so through discussions, Pete brought me in. So Pete's kind of my boss. And I have been adapting and working on adapting the game Dreamchaser for one-on-one use by therapists, social workers, spiritual directors, pastoral counselors, and whatnot. And I'm looking for more people who want to get involved in using the game. So if you like what you see tonight, let me know. I'll ask you again at the end when it's probably a better time to ask, having seen the game.
Nice.
So,
and this is actually my first time playing and encountering Dreamchaser, and I've heard so much about it that I'm super excited. So, and it's really hard right now in my setting to do groups or do anything like that. But the idea of being able to play a game one-on-one with somebody is pretty exciting, because that's the only way I can do sessions at this point.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm very excited about this.
That's what we got a lot of feedback on. You know, we were hoping to kind of do the Model T and make the one product that was great for gamers and therapists and people, you know, whether it's counselors or parents. And then, you know, the feedback we got over time was, Pete, this is a great idea, but if you want me to use it at work, can you give me a manual that shows me exactly how to use it at work? Right. And I was like, okay, we could do that. But originally I was like, you know, they could adapt it a little bit, but that wasn't the feedback I got, which I can understand that, right?
Yeah, especially in a clinical setting, like a lot of people just need, well, they need to show their supervisors how it's going to operate, right? And
and as Soltagan says, Soltagon, they want to do it right. They want to make sure that they have some good input. So Pete has not been too stern of a boss. He's been pretty good. And, you know, with the pandemic and all, Pete kind of, you know, let me go at my own speed, but we're working on it.
Nice.
I had a lot to chew on, so.
Okay, Soltagon is insistent that you're stern. Oh,
I'm very stern with Sout. That's different.
Yeah. Okay.
You can call him Sout if it's easier for you. That's what we nickname him. So.
Okay. Soltagon is fun to say.
It is, and you're actually saying it perfect. So
yep, and it feels like you're getting picked on there. Don't worry, Soltagon, it's picked on with love. So, before we go on, we should do our announcements, our general announcements, because Tanya and I are part of CAST, the CAST Gamers, the community of applied, spiritual, and therapeutic tabletop gamers, and we stream and discuss and play and theorize together a lot. So let's do some announcements about what's coming up with CAST. Oh, okay, tomorrow night, 25th, we have Friday Night Cast, and we are not taking a break this week. I didn't change the text here. Oh. We are returning to the Haith of Wanderhome tomorrow night on Friday Night Cast. We're going to find out what our animal friends are up to, and one of us is switching characters. We started this game back in like November and decided it's to put on hold while we finished up our Kids on Brooms first year at Yale, which you can watch on our YouTube channel if you missed it. And we'll be coming back later this year for the second year at Yale. But we're going to join us on the Haith tomorrow night at 8:45 p.m. Central. And then Sunday, this is a big weekend for CAST. We are playing Gaze of Our Lives. We are a queer group of players playing queer games by queer creators. Usually at least two of those have to be there for it to be working. And we are playing Exodus, Trans Angels on the Run in a Fascist Dystopia by Erica Shepard, which is an homage and interpretation of the album Transangelic Exodus by Ezra Furman. So you can watch us Sunday, 3 to 7 p.m. Central right here on the Twitch station to see what we do after we left the Giant Carnival and where we're headed next on our cross-country trip.
Nice. I was able to tune into the last one and it was pretty fun. Super awesome.
Thank you. We're having fun playing angels in a pickup truck.
Yes, at a carnival. Perfect.
We had to leave the carnival.
Oh.
So,
all right.
Pete,
tell us a little more about Dreamchaser and how you came up with it. And were you thinking of any of this during the creation of the game?
Okay. Yeah, so Dreamchaser was my first game that got published. So it's near and dear to my heart. It's funny looking back on it now because there was just so much time and energy that was just devoted to this being the one thing. Like, and after you make something, it goes like, then you have to keep selling it and you work on another thing and then you have more stuff and then there's a business and then people and conventions and before, it's funny how much more peaceful of a time it was. It was a quiet time of reflection. Dreamchaser started out of an idea of almost a love for the Matrix and the Dresden Files, which is really, really bizarre to say out loud. But I was making something that was about these people that had special abilities, almost like in the Matrix, like they had control over our world in a way that others didn't. And it wasn't fleshed out to a point of figuring out why that was. And I was listening to the audiobooks for the Dresden Files, and I kind of had some ideas of maybe it was like a different kind of magic. Like it was a magic over like controlling different elements of the world. Like maybe you could like be more persuasive than other people, or you had something that was more useful for like distance management and how you could cast spells, but not like elements or a lot of the typical things. But in that journey of trying to sort of make a game with these different ideas and themes, the game Dreamchaser was born. And somewhere along the lines, I stumbled upon like, what if people could force their will on the world, and that the world would kind of almost open up or bend or make a path. And I found myself looking at The Alchemist, which is a popular book. I can't think of, it's Pablo Coelho. You can look it up. I'm not going to butcher the name.
Coelho, I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Thank you.
Coelho.
Yeah. Thank you. And there's a famous line from that, which is basically that like, if you follow your dreams, the world will bend, the universe will bend to make it happen. But you will meet challenges. But along the way, if you persist and you keep going, the universe will have your back, basically. And out of this combination of things actually came Dreamchaser, which was this game of almost fulfilling a promise of what role-playing games could be. Because really my aim, the grand aim of it all was just that role-playing games were so impactful in my life that I felt I wanted to give back. Like I wanted to make a little dent there to improve something for somebody else, to kind of give back to the idea that gave me so many great friends and confidence and skills and, things that I would use in my regular life forever, or great memories. So that's kind of the gist of where it started, like that impotence of like where it came from. Impetus, not impotence.
Different thing there.
The COVID's really done that to me. I find sometimes the words I pull out are just not the right ones at all.
If you can achieve your dreams, you will not be impotent in these.
Yes, thank you.
Here we go. Here we go.
Yeah. So one of the things that I felt was really not fulfilled in plenty of games was just that each player has something that they're sitting down at the table to do, something that they want to get out of the game. And so many games start out with like a setting and, players making their characters, and they gravitate towards the strangest oddball outliers of whatever setting it is, because it's natural. They want to be unique and different, but it creates a scenario. Like I always go to Deadlands just because it seems like a less likely, example of the Weird West. Somebody then wants to be the bank robber, somebody wants to be the train robber, somebody wants to be the grave digger, and then there's like somebody who's a bounty hunter, and then the sheriff that's going to like uphold the city of Dodge against the whoever it is. And then the game master is like, what do I do with these 6 people who want to do everything but would have no reason to be together? And then often what happens is they just grab something. Like they just grab some, okay, there's so-and-so has been shooting up the town. The people need you and they'll pay you $50,000 or whatever. And what we got there was nothing that anybody actually wanted, right? We are playing, Deadlands or insert Wild West game. But the train robber is not robbing trains. They're not jumping off a train with money bags. The grave digger isn't having these conversations around corners and like during the day of explaining where they were and what they've been doing. And, because maybe like if that's why you want to play that character, people are going to be on to you and you're going to have to explain yourself. So I was like, how can we fulfill that promise of what a role-playing game is supposed to be, right? Like you can do whatever you want. That's a role-playing game. You can be whoever you want to be. So Dreamchaser kind of dives deeper than like selling you a setting It says, let's start there. What do you want to do in a role-playing game? And then we're going to try to give that to you. And one of the ways it does it best is by opening it up to the group of players who will actually all be participating instead of trying to let the book tell you how to do it. So it guides you.
There's a lot of player agency and world building by the
Yeah.
players.
And what you'll see is one of those things I took from actually Jim Butcher, is him saying, as a novelist who wrote, the Dresden Files, is don't write yourself into a corner. All too often, like if you're an early writer, for example, you might be like, oh yeah, and this is Harry Dresden. He's got 6 brothers. One's in real estate. One lives up north. And none of that matters. But now that you've said it all, it's more to remember. It's more to upkeep. It's more to maintain. Dreamchaser tries to pretty much just focus on exactly what it is that the players want in their game. That's what's in the character sheet. That's what's reinforced by the mechanics. And we only build on top of that the world and setting that we need. So that you don't need, the 45 pages leading up to your next Shadowrun or L5R game for everyone to read, which they won't, to understand the setting, right?
They don't read anyway.
And as I thought about, the work of using games for personal growth or in therapy, I saw this is the reason I saw Dreamchaser working so well, right? That you can put your stuff, especially in a one-on-one session, you could put your dreams, your goals, your milestones right into your character, whether you play yourself literally as a character, or whether you play a fantastic character who's a wizard or a fighter pilot. Had another thought, but I lost it.
Well, it's kind of what you were going for. You led with that too, is like, did I think that this could be used like for therapy or personal growth? And, one of the things I thought of what made this game cool was kind of what you're saying. It could be, I want to conjure the greatest spell ever created. What is that? Is it like a lost magic? Did we lose magic entirely? Did people only believe that it could be possible? Or is there the one spell lost that like ends the world or maybe revives people,
Right.
Or can it be what Menachem's saying, or maybe even like what a parent would want to do, like for their kid, is like, you really want to be a rock star? What would that be like if I wrote a New York Times bestseller? Let's play that game. I think that it would have this, this, and this. And you make a character that has this person that's important to you and these qualities. And then we'll just see what happens in that story about that. But we could also play the story about you being a doctor, that cures cancer. And again, with these dreams, they're just sort of simple sentences that are like an idea of what then that campaign or those game sessions will be about. It may not actually happen, but it's a story about doing such a thing, whether or not, we don't always spoil it from the beginning.
Well, and engaging in the creative process is, just the actual act of engaging in that process. It can be so healing. It can really open things up. And especially in a cooperative setting, like a game, like an RPG. Like it just, when you co-create that story, I think there are elements that kind of appear. It is like magic. I think, like it just kind of, things just come out that you don't expect.
I feel like we should show them the dream map so we can give them a visual.
Oh yeah.
And Tanya, like kind of like what you're saying is that the collaborative force is what makes the game work. It's not that it doesn't have a setting. It's kind of like, instead of not having a box, like the players create the box.
Right.
So when the dream map is up here, you'll see that this group, these 2 players, decided on a dream that was to walk around the world. And we put this on a dream map, which is, basically an opening board or a sheet of paper that has this design that holds index cards. So literally you're just handing people index cards and saying, what would you like to play a story about? In a few words, what would that be? What would you achieve, right? So walk around the world, but what were some of the other ones that came up to you 2? Did you have another one that came up, or another 2 that you came up with before you settled on just this one?
We did.
Now I have to open,
My
now I have to
computer
open
is-
Discord.
Yeah. So we did it in chat and Discord.
We did. Hold on, I'll pull it up.
It's as you could imagine that usually when you run this game or you play this game, it's almost like the one that's selected, everyone pitches an idea or two, is the one that makes everyone laugh or smile or ask questions. We played a game once that was about a tulpa, and half the table had never heard of what that was, including myself. We're like pulling our phones and Googling it. And a tulpa was kind of like a golem that, like, at least how it was explained in the process of our, what we needed was that it was like if an artist worked on something and put their heart and soul in it, that it could be animated, it could give it life. And a tulpa was kind of like that. It was almost like a golem that was living and breathing from like a sculptor, and that just intrigued the table. And we were like, yeah, the other ones, capture the fairy queen, or, like walk with giants, or the other ones were cool, create a parasitic, alien invasion or something. It was, that was the one that got us intrigued, and leaves you with all these great games you could play another time, and an idea of what everyone at the table is kind of looking to play. But they vote on what they want to play, and then they kind of tell the game master, this is what we're going for.
Right.
And then they make characters with
we have a
it in
technical
mind.
question, Pete. Our Kayla on backend is only seeing the character sheet on Roll20.
Okay.
So we don't have the dream map.
Oh, okay. Unfortunately. Basically, it's just a cool board with clouds on the front that has slots in the middle that holds an index card that's our dream, and then slots that kind of give us a 1, 2, 3, and 4 order that you'll see. We'll talk about here in a second. It's kind of like guiding us through the story goals, if you will, the chapter goals, and telling our story. It builds sort of a bit of a infrastructure or a teaser look at what we're about to do, so that we can kind of have an idea of, is this a 2-session game, a 1-session game? Are we playing for an hour a session? But it gives it a structure. Like, you kind of know what you're committing to.
Right.
Like, every player is on board with building, what is our experience here?
Well, speaking of playing the game and how much longer we're going to play, what we're going to do is we're going to play for 30 to 45 minutes and talk about the game maybe a little bit during it, and then process afterwards.
Yeah.
So why don't we move towards playing?
Okay. So,
and why don't we bring us our pictures back for the moment, our faces, so people can see us smiling at them.
People did get to see the character sheets a moment ago.
Yeah, we'll come back in a moment, because we have 1 or 2 things to do before we start. Because when we're doing games, especially when we're playing games that are going to be therapeutic or spiritually beneficial to do some self-exploration, we like to set the stage. My colleague Davi Weasley did a project back when 5e first came out of how can you use role-playing games for spiritual direction. And I learned a lot from Davi and playing that game. And one thing we do is we create the magic circle of play. And the magic circle is an idea that originally was mentioned first by Johann Huizinga, but later other folks have written about it to great extent and debunked it or argued about it or supported it. What I take from it is the idea is that when you play a game, you enter into a space of play, whether it's a table or a Zoom screen or it's a soccer field, where the rules of daily life are suspended. They don't really apply. Like, most of us don't walk down the street kicking a soccer ball all the time or rolling dice to see what we do, unless we're writing a fun nonfiction, memoir where every action is decided by chance. So we enter into this magic circle, we play, things happen, you win, you lose the game, you find the treasure, you bring the McRib back. I know that was one of the games you played before, Pete. And then you leave the magic circle of play, and you're transformed in some way. You think about winning or losing, you've discovered a part of yourself, and then you go back into your daily life. So we like to enter and leave that circle with play.
Can I be a weird nerd right now? And
yes. Can't help it.
I can't. It's just who I am. But Victor Turner is an anthropologist who talked about this very thing, only he didn't talk about the magic circle of play. He talked about liminal spaces and sacred spaces to kind of bring it on home, right? Sacred spaces do exactly this, right? They put us in a different time and space where we do whatever it is we're going to do, and then when we emerge back into the world, we are changed in some way. And like rites of passage are probably the most clear example, or the most readily accessible example, where we go in and something happens and we emerge a new person. So sorry, I just made that connection, and I
Wonderful.
wanted
I love
to.
that. I'm gonna have to bring that into my research.
Awesome. Yeah, Victor Turner.
Yes, we are in good company here for weird nerds, weird geeks.
Yeah.
As the comment says in Twitch. Thank you, running ninjas. So what I would like to do, which I often do, I run spiritual discovery Dungeons and Dragons groups because D&D is well known, but I bring other games in as much as I can. I'm getting ready to start one at the Broadway Youth Center here in Chicago with LGBTQ and our homeless youth. I like to start with just a moment of meditation and silence, just to collect our thoughts. This is how Davi had us starting in the game. So we're going to do like 30 seconds. So just, roll your shoulders, your neck, whatever feels right. And imagine you're breathing coming all the way from your diaphragm, all the way down in your belly. Just pay attention to the breath for another 20 seconds. When you're ready, bring your attention back to the screen. And that was far too short, but it's just an example. We're doing a sample game here tonight. And then to continue entering the circle, we ask all the participants a couple of questions. So the first question we're going to ask tonight is, what thoughts, comments, feelings do you have as we get ready to start today's game? I can start since I was prepared for this. I had a headache all day today, and I felt a little dizzy and nauseous. So I slept most of the day and didn't get to prep as much as I wanted to, because I literally slept most of the day. So I'm a little more fly by the seat of my pants or seat of my kilt than I usually am. And I don't know if I started sword lessons again this week, which is really exciting. It was the first time using steel swords, and I didn't take any hits to the head, but I took a couple soft, controlled glances to the head, and the wrists took more beating. So maybe it was that. I'm hoping it was just that actually, instead of being sick. So I'm worried, but I'm also very excited to try this out and see if we can do it in 30 to 45 minutes.
I am sword work is extremely strenuous. Sorry, I'm reading the chat too. I used to do kendo, so yeah, it was that was hard. But I am super excited for this game, and I've been excited for this game for a while now. I've been super unfocused all day, and it was really hard, like working, because like I could participate in meetings, but I was just all over the place all day, and my heart's heavy. There's a lot going on in the world right now that is just seems really heavy right now, and I that comes with me into the game.
Yeah, I have a 3-year-old, so my bundle of joy keeps often. There's never-ending noise surrounding me. A person who, back when I made this game, could have 8 hours straight of silence. So it is funny to think about, but there have been times I was thinking, coming out of this, I had another sort of interview thing I did for RPG Ramblings a few days ago, and then like a week and a half ago, I did the Influence Organization's Why We Game, and so I happen to have just a handful of things relatively close to one another, so you naturally compare things. And there were some moments from the Why We Game interview that stick with you, because unfortunately, when you do stuff on camera, whether or recorded, afterwards you're like, almost, it's like a game master running a game. Something didn't go like you had imagined it going perfectly well, and you're just kind of beating yourself up over it. And then usually what happens, that I have the experience with now, is that you go back and listen to it later or see it, and it's nothing. So at least I have some comfort usually. But with the three things, I just noticed in particular that it's kind of been that. It's just that my life is so busy, having a 3-year-old and a day job and the business, and then Chew, and then having more than one, Rust in Pieces just got, released, but it was later because of the supply chain thing. And there's just, there's just so much, life is so much right now. And I could tell how that affected each of my interviews, because like the thing I did on Monday, it was just really comfortable, relaxed. I look at it and I'm like, all these great conversations I had and these great points we talked about. And it's just funny because, I mean, you look at what was the difference. I really think it was just the flow of the day. Like it was completely the flow of the day. So yeah, there was just a little bit of that thought going into this too, of like the what I can't control, and how that could affect everything, so it's yeah, so to get that off my chest, I appreciate that, because yeah, that's something that's been on my mind. So
well, thank you for
Awesome.
making time for this.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank
yeah.
you.
This is an honor, like I said, I hope that one day I'll be listening to weekly episodes with a whole bunch of people doing amazing things with RPGs. So.
Right now we're monthly, but maybe we'll get there.
That's right. That's right.
It's the first, right? It's technically it's the first, but just like any good campaign, it started with a session 0. So
Yes, exactly.
So our second question often is relevant to the game. And so I literally took the name of the game. And the question is, how do you chase your dreams? Tell us in a minute or so how you chase your dreams.
Are you
I'm
asking
gonna go
each
backwards.
of us?
asking each of us to answer that question.
Oh,
Well, the weird part for me is, like I said, I have been notoriously meticulous, like, spending all the time needed, persevere, attention to detail. But I've been learning, the crash course over time as my baby turned to a toddler and slept less and less and less, of how to better manage my time. So, yeah, and that really just requires more friends and more help, enlisting more help and asking for help.
Community.
Yeah, friends, freelancers, community. Yeah.
wow, the way I chase my dreams. Well, sometimes my dreams chase me down. So and it knocked me down, and but I have to also say that like I'm thinking about Doxicon and some of the other things that I've been doing, and it doesn't happen with just me. It can't happen with just me. It's many hands make light work, but it's also more, right? It's the collective effervescence of people's enthusiasm and their joy and their affection for one another that carries things through. And that's it's hard to chase a dream alone.
Yeah, definitely community and collaboration is a big part of what I want. That's why I'm trying to build this community of collaboration around adapting Dreamchaser. But I really think a lot of my life's work and personal work are summed up in this quote by Howard Thurman that says, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive." So I asked myself, it's not just chasing your bliss and what makes you feel good. It's what really makes you feel fulfilled and in connection. I always ask myself, and I work with others, what is it that makes you come alive? And if you know what it is, I then say, how do we manifest it? So I've spent a lot of years asking myself what makes me come alive. And this work is what makes me come alive. It's a big part of that. Okay. So now to go into the magic circle, we each are going to state our names, our player names, and the rest of the group will repeat them to invite us in. And then we're going to state our character names or GM role, and we'll welcome each other into the circle, and then we'll start playing. We did a little of this prep ahead of time, but we're going to go through the process. We did it ahead of time, so we hopefully go faster than having to think about the answers to all these questions.
Right.
So let's do the name ritual.
Okay, I'll start. My name's Tanya.
Hey, Tanya. And we repeat it. So Pete, you welcome Tanya too.
Yeah, I said hi, Tanya.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Sorry.
Sorry, my bad. And your character name, Tanya.
Oh, and my character name. Oh, my character name is Gemma Fury.
Hello, Gemma Fury.
Hello, Gemma Fury.
My name is Menachem.
Hi, Menachem.
I'm Menachem.
And I am Roger Grolf.
Hi, Roger.
Hello, Roger. Grolf. So my name's Pete Petrusha.
Hi, Pete.
And I will be the guide for this game.
Hello, guide.
Hello, guide.
Take it away.
Okay. So if we can get a look at those character sheets, that'd be primo. And when we look at the character sheets, you'll see these little blue bubbles that'll give us kind of a number order. In the top right of the sheet gives us the steps of what the players had already gone through. Which sheet are we looking at?
We're looking at a blank one.
Oh, okay. Why don't you show us Roger's?
Can you do that?
We're asking the fourth wall. There's nobody back there. We just, posing questions.
Oh, okay. I see it. There you go.
Good. So Roger Grolf, as we can see, there's a name top middle. On the top left, under with the one bubble, making up for not being able to see the dream map, the board with the index cards. Clearly, if we have to play session to session, it's nice to have the notations on the characters as well. So the one bubble shows us what the dream is in the few words that it is, walked around the world. Which, by the way, did we find what the other one was? The other option?
We had
the other game dream? Yeah.
We had learn to fly.
Yep.
Learn to fly.
Uh-huh.
Right. Rescue an orphan puppy.
Yep.
Find a hidden city.
Find a hidden city.
Follow the invisible path.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now,
discredit an organization was the other one I put.
Discredit an organization. And it's one of the things that Dreamchaser kind of asks of people is to keep them kind of vague, because it gives a lot more room as we continue building our characters and then talking about them with the other players for us to just kind of collectively brainstorm as we're doing this and adding pieces in. But they need a little, one example is, I remember one time we were making a company, and the company, like one of the milestone cards before, this is play testing, right? Was kind of like, I need to have a rap party, as in like a rap, like that's a rap with the movie that has like 400 designers, 100 that are graphic designers and 200 musicians, but it was like, why are they all numbered? So it was one of those things where like, I was like, okay, we'd have a really hard time of getting exactly what you need without being ridiculous. But we could say, let's have a rap party. And I kind of get what you're asking for here. So that's why when you hear something like, what was it like? Find the hidden
city.
Find the hidden city. Sometimes Menachem one time had told me by message when I was like, hey, what was the dream you did when you ran a game? And he said something about like, find the trees.
No, it was live in the woods.
Live in the woods.
And when the player first suggested, I'm like, I was like, it just kind of pushed it aside. Then I thought about it. What does it mean if the dream is to live in the woods? It means you've never seen trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we played a game of finding the mythical trees.
Right. Because they're like one oasis and like a whole history of myths of what was once forests. Right. And then that just gets you going of like, what is this world?
I loved it.
Who are these people? And yeah.
Right.
But anyway, that's the idea of dreams. So moving on to once you have a dream, we ask every player in a few words, who do you want to be in that dream, in that story? And that's where we come up with, Menachem said, I want to be a photojournalist dragon with stunted wings.
It actually started because Tanya said, I'm a dragon.
Okay. Yeah. And Tanya is a cartographer dragon. So again, this is where they kind of all touch base. All the players kind of touch base with the idea of what the story is. And when they fill it in with who we're going to be, it helps us make sure that we identify right away if someone's isolating themselves out of that story, or for everyone to kind of tailor them to fit, whether it's a group, a party, 4 different leaders in 4 different continents going to war, but fitting the style of play they want. We kind of can talk about that then.
For people who haven't played this game, the role can be thought of as like your class.
Sure.
What you do in the game.
The milestones is where you get to have your own personal sort of dreams. Since the dream of the game is a compromise, the point of milestones is to give every player at least one and give them the same idea. In this case, we have eat peanut butter for the first time, but we also had somebody say sing in a musical. The one where we have to play today is meet someone who isn't afraid of us. And these become sort of chapter goals to tell the grander story. So in a short game, you might have 1 per player, but then in a longer game, like you see in the character sheet, you might have 3 per player. And if there's 4 players, that could be like 12 sessions, or, depending on how you play it, right? These just give us these sort of beats, story beats, mile markers, milestones. And nobody gets to tell you that yours sucks, or that doesn't fit, or this doesn't work. Believe me, it works. And we're going to make sure that you have that spotlight moment with the character that you wanted to play.
Nice.
Moving right along, you have tags next. So these are just literally a few descriptors of like what you were going for when you made your character. I was thinking of a character that's this, this, and this. In this case, confident, talkative, and supportive. So when you go to do things and the dice suck and they don't work out how you want them to, you have these things you can justify rerolls with because you're supposed to be these things. That's the character you made.
Tanya, what were your tags?
My tags were shy, artist / creative, and adventurous.
We talked about how do you use shy as a beneficial thing. We're going to see if we can find that out tonight.
Oh, for sure. What's funny is when people, you'll see with the strategies as well, like some of my favorites early on were like when people were a mooch or oblivious, or they, these things that could sometimes be bad. But in this game, nothing's bad because you're saying, I want this to be helpful. And we will reroll and use this when it can be helpful, but in a narrative way. You'll figure out why it's helpful in your strategy for success at the moment. So
nice.
Moving to strategies. These are kind of like the 3 ways you will interact with the world to try to enact change. So, I mean, obviously, like anyone could fight, but in the case of this character, Roger has boxing. So when Roger's fighting, it's probably through the lens, the perspective of a boxer. But just because you don't have boxing, like Tanya's sheet has hiding in plain sight, map making, and flying. And Tanya, I could imagine that your character in a fight might hide in plain sight and then pop somebody. It just creates an environment for you to figure out how you would describe using these 3 ways to do anything.
It's your powers, your skills, your abilities.
Yeah.
Right.
We've had people do things as ridiculous as I have a moon-based laser, which is really funny descriptively. and then obviously like stuff like scrapbooking, and then and then we move to soul skills. Soul skills are everything you can do in this game. We're going to either come from a point of view of reasonably using one of our strategies or being pretty creative, imaginative use of our strategies. Like we were saying, hiding in plain sight to fight someone is probably a little more of a stretch. It's imaginative versus reasonable.
Right.
It's kind of reasonable if it's dark and blind fighting or something, right? But and then your health. So most things are just a roll, but if we get into challenges, which could be a fight, a boss fight, but it could also be like an investigation, a race to the finish, trying to ace a math test, if that's you're important for your milestone. Health scores of mind, body, and spirit become a way for us to, lose or experience defeat or setbacks in those situations that are important to the story and to the character, the player, really. But relationships, and I'm trying to glide through these, so I apologize, but and they're important because we won't talk about them as much when we're playing. So relationships, every character has 1 to 3 relationships with a person, place, or thing. Maybe even like an attitude like America or, like freedom. But these, by putting them on your sheet and giving them an affinity like true love or close or casual, is your way of saying, Pete, I want this in my story. Like, that's the only reason I put on my sheet, is because they should come up in my story. So for example, Tanya has Griffin, her brother. I'm sorry. Her brother's name is Griffin. I'm sorry. Her brother is a Griffin. That's what I'm trying to say. Not Griffin. And that brother character, the reason they're important to Tanya, who is Gemma Fury, is because they're a sign of hope to that character. So we also tag them with some value. Why are they important to me in this story? And I want them in this story. Menachem has their boxing instructor. And last but not least, there is belongings. So we assume in Dreamchaser, you kind of have all the basic things you need. But this gives you an option to take 1 to 3 iconic things of importance, things that define your character, or things that you should always have in the worst case scenarios. And they're also a place where we could hide something weird, like the Book of the Dead or the Constitution, like the real one. It says a lot about what our story is, but it's funny because they give you no mechanical benefit, right? But it's funny how often they can influence so much of the narrative, even though they become a MacGuffin, right? For those who think of it in those story terms.
So you don't have a magic sword as a belonging. If you want to swing a magic sword, you would put it in your strategies.
Yeah.
Right.
To use it as a magic sword.
Right.
Or a relationship so that it has a tag, like if it was like, maybe it's one of those swords that only works at certain times. So like when it gives you hope, it lights brilliantly. And that's when you can use the hope tag from your sword. But yeah. Okay. So now that we ran over characters, that touched on the dream mapping that we kind of would do ahead of time. They over the process of this, as the game master, I kind of got to hear all that collaborative talk and that brainstorming. And usually you start picking on pieces of like kind of little things that connect to the setting or what they're going for. Maybe even names of like, a corporation to, discredit or something. But the one thing that really helps me, run this on the fly or even prepare for a session in the future is this thing called vision rolls. So, Menachem, do we have any questions or anything? Otherwise, I'm going to just jump into that.
Let's go into vision rolls.
Okay. So vision rolls are simply me asking the players for input as another way for, especially if this goes session to session, and maybe it's not the same sit down that you had when you made characters, that we kind of gauge the room. So the first milestone in this story about walking around the world is to meet someone who isn't afraid of us. So I would ask each of you to roll 2d10, because everything in this game we roll 2d10. Normally I'd ask you to use 2 different colors, but just some way you can identify them, because one's going to reflect your imagine and one's going to reflect your reason in this case. And you want to roll under the number value that you have there. And all the number values in your sheet are 1 to 10. So not equal, under.
I got a 1 and an 8, imagine and reason.
So for example, Menachem's got a 3 imagine, so that's under, but the 8 is not under a 7 reason. So you got 1 success. How'd we do, Tanya?
Okay, for imagine, I got a 2.
Okay,
and
that's good.
For reason, I got a 4.
All right.
Equal, right?
Yep. So you got 2 under the 6 for that's a success, but the 4 meets a 4, so it's not a success. So you both got 1 success. All that does in this case is tell me the order of operations. It's almost like an initiative roll for these questions. So since you're both the same, and I'm just looking at my setup here, it may not be the same on Twitch. Menachem, we have a goal of meeting someone who isn't afraid of us. What is stopping us?
Most people are afraid of us.
Okay. I just jot down a little note here of most people afraid of us. Though, as you can imagine, what's not spoken there is dragons.
Right.
And
I
maybe we don't know if dragons are common and it's us they're afraid of, or if dragons are not common and so they're afraid of us. So we're not sure about that yet.
Now, Menachem, getting in the shoes of your character, if you're looking at your sheet, if your character had to deal with a problem that was most people are afraid of us, how would your character go about trying to improve that situation?
I think I would use my charisma and offer to like a photo shoot for them for free.
So the dragon has a strategy that says charisma, but I've learned some more about a photo shoot as well, which is interesting.
I'm a photojournalist.
Okay. Now, the benefit of rolling better is you go later, right? And in this case, Tanya, by default, just because of the clockwise rotation for us, you got to hear these things because you could just piggyback on them, or you could go in completely different directions. But it's a chance for you as a player to give some input on what we're about to do.
Okay.
And likewise, it gives me more things to think about of like, hey, maybe I'll just do that, or I'll take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and that's what we'll do.
Okay.
So same questions. In a game about walking around the world, we have this problem ahead of us. Meet someone who isn't afraid of us. Why is that a problem?
There's been a lot of bad press about dragons, which I feel is undeserved.
And if your character had to do something about this bad press to get past, get over, to get around it, to get through it, what would that be? What would your character try to do? And sometimes the answer is, I do nothing. What the hell do you do about that?
No, I would, and I'm supposed to use a strategy, right?
You don't have to, right?
Oh, okay.
It's more just getting in the head of your character.
Right. I think that I would be trying to go around the world trying to help people. Yeah. But I'm real shy. So like I have to kind of do it on the slide.
It doesn't. I never said you had to be good at what you thought you should do. Just what would you do, right? Like,
right? Like if somebody says they're hungry, I can be like, and like there's food, and maybe they see a dragon out of the corner of their eye.
Okay. So with that, the last thing we do is I kind of give you both a tag. If you would roll 2 successes here, you'd make up your own for yourself. Since you both rolled 1 success and 1 miss, I come up with it. If you had 2 misses, the other players would come up with something. And the whole idea, I'm sorry, I actually said it backwards. You each are going to come up with a descriptor for the other player. Because if you had 2 that missed, then I would give you something and probably be a little bit of a pain. I'd be a dick about it. It's basically what I'm trying to say. Think for a moment. So Menachem had said that most people are afraid of us. So my character, to deal with that, is I would use my charisma to create a photo shoot. How would you describe a character that did that? What's some descriptive word we can give that person? If you want to be nice, you don't have to be nice. Or you give them some other descriptive word they may or may not use to their advantage, but it's not what you think would be nice. It's what you think is funny or something, and then likewise, Menachem's going to do the same thing for you. Tanya, you said that we get a lot of bad press, and that's the problem with meeting someone who isn't afraid of us. And you said, well, we just got to be helpful. I'm just going to go around being helpful as I can be. So Menachem could be giving you some descriptor that could be helpful for that, helpful for helpful, or something that may not be. So
Okay.
think for a moment and then just spit it out. And you both get a vision tag.
Oh.
I think I'll go with big-hearted.
Okay.
For you, Tanya.
Oh, thank you.
You would just write that on the right side of your tags. There's 2 columns there. It's a temporary tag because you might find out it fits really well. Or you might be like, nah, and then it goes away later.
Okay, yes, on the right side.
And then what do you say about Menachem? About Roger? Is it Grolf?
Ralph. As someone said in the chat, it's from Ralph from the
yeah,
Muppets.
from the Muppets. as I'm getting, just as a side note, as I'm getting ready to do this, I'm always like, it's time to put on makeup. It's time to light the lights. Yeah, sorry. When I think of someone wanting to do a photo shoot for somebody as a way to not have them not be afraid, I think that's really bold. I think that's bold.
I'll take it. I am bold.
Okay. So we have, again, real quick, any questions in the chat?
No, somebody's making alternate lyrics to the Muppet song, and they're pretty awesome.
Gotta love Twitch. Okay. So don't mind the feed. It's just gonna keep going. If you like, give it a beat, go with it, you know, get your groove on. We're gonna play a little bit over here. Don't mind us. So we don't have a lot of time. So we're gonna jump right into it, which
Cool.
isn't a bad idea anyway, especially in a Dreamchaser game. You know, when we run these at conventions, you kind of got to get into it because we got to knock some of these out. So to meet someone who isn't afraid of us, I look at these sheets and I go, okay, we got Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis is a boxing instructor. This is very important to Roger Groff. Now, Jerry Lewis being a boxing instructor, I assume we probably have some location where we train. Maybe it's a garage. I kind of like a gym, but Menachem, what do you think? Where would you like to train boxing?
The sewers.
Okay. So we go underground, but it's nice. There's sewers. Okay. So in the sewers, we find Roger Groff. Now I can only imagine that you're pretty big for the sewers. So
Found one of those big empty spaces, you know.
yeah, it's gotta be, right? But you find yourself occasionally surrounded by tunnels that are very hard for you to fit through. I mean, of course you can crawl through them, but who wants to crawl through the sewers? I don't know. Maybe you're a sewer dragon. Your boxing instructor, Jerry Lewis, I imagine there'd be an elaborate setup, but do you often train in the sewers? Is this like where you always go?
Yeah, it's my main. We have a ring set up down there. Right?
So yeah, so there's actually a ring. There is, you know, punching bags, some weights, dumbbells, benches, obviously some lighting. You know, I imagine that kind of like those, you know, mounted lights that are stuck almost like lanterns that have the little grids over them, giving you light in here, but obviously it's damp, it's moist. This is a lot like a lot of old school gyms, honestly. It's pretty nasty. Okay. Now, there is a lot of noise that's coming from above, and there is smoke that seems to be building in the 4 tunnels that kind of lead to this. If you imagine it as a giant plus symbol, your Jerry Lewis is hitting a speed bag, which for most, it's the one where you kind of go, and it's just making a lot of noise. It's like put up, put up, put up, put up. Also in the room, we have a friend of yours, a companion fuel, the cartographer. We have Gemma Fury. Gemma Fury, you were here, unfortunately, somewhat almost against your will, not because of Roger Groff, but because the two of you have been backed into a corner. And this is the last safe place that you had, which is a home away for home for Roger, is this boxing gym. And up above on the streets, there are people. And for our purposes, humanoids. They're the mixed creatures of almost of like fantasy races, but predominantly human. And they're walking around with pitchforks looking for dragons. It is dark outside, but think more like it's dusk than it is midnight. So it's not a starry night yet, but it's dark, but you can see the lights burning, whether they're torches. And people are nearing a stage of almost a riot. And for all intensive purposes so far, the two of you didn't do anything other than being seen. You have your friend, your brother, a griffin, a physical griffin that you understand, but not necessarily does everyone else understand very well because of the sort of squeaking, cawing, if you will, of the griffin. the griffin is basically talking down to you. It is sort of yelling for some good reason, panicked a bit. And it's saying things like, these people will never understand you. They'll never give you a chance. We have to get out of here. And I understand that you want to see the world, but it can't start here, because those people, they're never going to be okay with you walking around in these streets as a dragon. Roger, obviously you're here. You can hear all this. You've been hearing this. And it's one of the reasons why Jerry is just hitting the speed bag. The smoke, you think, is actually somewhat just the time of day, that there's more sort of smoke that kind of builds in the sewers, but there's a little more fear of if they were actually trying to smoke you out. So that adds a little level of panic that maybe otherwise wouldn't be here. But that's the scenario at the moment. Tanya, you've never played Dreamchaser, so obviously you have your belongings and you can insert things into the story if you think so. I mean, I'm the judge of whether or not it would be here, but if you think of, neat things to add to the, place here or something.
Okay.
Or, do I have one of these things? Why not?
Yeah. I would probably, if Griffin is telling me these things, I am probably going to start sulking a little. And I'm going to pull out my pipe.
Okay.
I got a pipe and tobacco, and I'm going to pack my pipe, and it's a nice vanilla tobacco. So I don't want to smell the fear smoke. So I want to smell this. And I pull out a piece of parchment. I start sketching.
Just noting, as the game master, you do have hiding in plain sight. You can fly.
That's true.
And you could even tell me about how you had made a map of the sewers in the past. And all these are just giving you, again, because you haven't played before, just giving you freedom ideas, right? Of like how you can use anything in any way at any time.
Okay.
What I would like to just prompt you with is that I'm kind of curious how Griffin is feeling about you. I mean, I'm telling you how Griffin would react normally in this situation, which is kind of panicked, unhappy, concerned, but just fearful that people can't change.
Right.
When he looks at you and how you react to him, I don't know that part. So why don't we make that a little roll here? Do you think?
Okay.
What would hiding in plain sight, map making, or flying, when you think about those things, how would they either make you look confident in this situation, make you look squeamish? How would you? Now we know you're shy, but we also know you're adventurous, and your brother would know these about you as well.
Right.
Which side is he seeing?
I think he's seeing my adventurous side, because I want to go walk around the world. And I think Griffin is concerned, but I think he's also trying to encourage me, like, you can do this, like, how to do this. And then he's going to gesture vaguely towards my maps that I have stuffed in various pockets and places on my person. And he's going to say, like, come on, like, don't you have something here that can help you sneak out?
Why don't you roll map making? Is it a reasonable thing that you would have had something to help you sneak out?
Oh yeah, I make
maps
everywhere. And if I don't have a pencil, I use my nose.
Roll reason and map making.
Okay, so
pick one die that will on the sheet. The reason it's color coded, the black around strategy and teal around soul skill, was the idea that you have color coded dice, right?
Oh, right.
then they match. And for new people, you could put them in the circle next to them, so you'd see, oh, that's the one that connects with what.
Oh, nice. Okay, so this is my soul skill and this is my strategy. Okay, so reason and map making.
Yes.
Reason, no. Map making though, did it. That
Okay.
was, yeah.
And let me know if you ever rolled doubles, because
Oh
doubles
yeah, right.
creates critical situations. And in Dreamchaser, they're extra fun because there's 3 forms, because you could roll a double that has a success and a failure. So
right.
Now on your sheet at the bottom middle, you have a thing called belief.
Right.
Every character starts with 4 of these bubbles filled in. You can check them if you want, or just remember, which means that you can do the first 2 things on this belief chart. You can, for free, as long as you have over 1 belief, reroll 1 failed die if you can explain why one of your tags would help. So looking at your tags, would any of those help in this situation, and how? You kind of were telling me you looked adventurous.
Yes.
Maybe you could describe that, or how the adventurous helped you map the sewers.
Well, but I have to re-roll before I do that.
You
no.
describe it and then you
just-
re-roll.
Oh, okay.
Because if you couldn't describe it, then we'd be like, nah, or just, take
Got
it.
it. Okay. So I am adventurous. So I when I go to any place, I like to get lost. And I like to lose myself in the places. And I like to lose myself in places like the sewers that are like, like everybody's got a map of the city, right? Like you can just look on the street or whatever. But I want to make maps of the places that aren't mapped. And so I'm going to make maps of places like this. Because I like to wander.
Why don't you reroll the die that didn't succeed, and let's see how it goes.
Okay.
And thank you, because we learned a lot about your character, right?
Okay, and it was reason that didn't. Oh, why did I make that so low?
Because everyone's high.
I still did not succeed.
Okay. And you still did not get doubles, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So what that means is you succeed, but there's a catch.
Okay.
So obviously 2 successes means you totally succeed. Whatever you kind of envisioned happens.
Right.
If you have 2 failures, right? We have new obstacles, new problems. Things don't just
Right.
become like, oh, it didn't work. They get
Right.
worse. In this case, you succeed, but there's a catch. So you have this map.
Mm-hmm. Me.
Griffin. So the Griffin comes towards you and pulls, a scroll from your side. You've been working on this so often lately, and I imagine it's with that beaky mouth. So the voice gets mumbled, right? You've been working on this one, someone spits it over, trying to help you get to the one you need. The cap of the scroll case comes off, right? And this is why we're in trouble in the first place, in this stupid map. You just had to go in and out of the sewers. Now, I mean, if people didn't think dragons were bad enough, now all the dragons are underneath us. At any time, they're going to sneak into our homes, where our kids live. We can't have that. We can't have dragons beneath us at any moment able to strike. So you have the right map, but Griffin is very, very
even
sure
more
that
panicked.
map is the reason for why they're out there.
So we're going to wrap up play in a couple of minutes. I had one quick idea.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Roger.
So I want to take the boom box that we use, in the boxing gym.
Like you do.
And I don't fly, by the way. I'm going to go up towards closer to the surface with the boom box. I'm going to play Puff the Magic Dragon through the sewers, so people might hear it up in the streets.
Is there a ladder that you climb, or do you have to go down one of these tunnels? Is there an elevator?
Way, I can go up a level, up the slant, so I get to, one that's below a sewer cover.
Okay.
Now I'm going to play Puff the Magic Dragon to maybe make people have happy thoughts about dragons.
Do you? The funny part is, I'm like, do you have Puff the Magic Dragon? You think of the perfect song, but do you have it on demand? Do we have the cloud when we need it? In the which one of your strategies, or which one of your strategies would help you have the song that you need?
mean, I was thinking it was charisma because it's a
Oh
song.
yeah,
It's a good song about dragons.
it seems like yeah, I'm like, is that a reasonable
I was thinking I was even going to
imaginative?
fake voices going, dragons are cool.
do you think it's a reasonable use for your character, or is it a stretch for you to have that song?
I think unfortunately it's a stretch to
Okay.
the whole strategy is a stretch.
Give it imagine charisma.
So oh my. I failed in both.
Oh,
So I'm gonna just to give an example. I'm gonna spend 2 of my hope,
Okay.
create a double
So
success
the other thing you can
to
do
my
is, so
belief.
every kind of other amount of belief gives you a passive ability of re-rolling or something, and then the other one, like every even number, gives you something where you spend your belief, and to give you something cool, but it's lower to maybe removed one of your passive
Right,
abilities.
so I only have 2 belief now.
okay.
So with hope, you create a double success to find hope, which maybe is that you pick the boombox up and the song just started playing, and it was a cassette or something. And you're like, pause. That's exactly what I need. So go ahead. You did buy it. So tell me what this looks like.
Well, since we're running out of time, I was imagining maybe we're trying to find someone who's not afraid of us.
Mhm.
Maybe someone who thinks dragons are cool comes to investigate, and we start talking to them.
So when you would go near the sewer grate or sewer cover, right? You're kind of getting closer to one of the sewer entrances to the road, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And you would play this song. Would you hear the people stop above you? Would someone open the grate? Would you hear a conversation above?
Imagine there'd be some people, I mean, given the song is about kids believing, maybe some kids, decide to start talking about dragons being cool. Tanya, Tanya?
I think I'm gonna pull myself away from my brother, who's really
Sure.
making me depressed right now. And I can hear that. I can hear what's going on, and I peer through the grate, and I make a picture of one of the kids or a couple of the kids,
Oh, through the great hole. Well, that's interesting. Yeah.
and then I like put little hearts and stuff, and then I slide it up through.
So
Can I do that?
you sure can. You sure can. I think that the kids, right? They would be above, and you'd probably maybe even hear kids talking to a parent, like holding a parent back. And it's a couple kids who are just talking about, oh, that song. And where's that song coming from, Dad? And never mind that right now. There could be dragons around. We need to get you two home. No, but the song, Dad, it's talking about dragons. And the song sort of having a moment for the father who, like, thinks of like, oh yeah, that Puff the Magic Dragon, which unfortunately probably has a lot of thoughts about that song. But the one we're going to focus on is a feeling that, there was a time when dragons weren't, public enemy number one, or to be completely feared unless they did something. Especially like the dragons that have been seen going around these streets aren't like Smog. They're not world-ending dragons. They're just very tall and very long, but they can fit in the sewers. So I mean, you're like the size of a story or a house, not flying over and burning a town.
So I'd love to play this out.
Yeah.
But we're running out of time.
Okay.
Oh.
So the idea is just that that would be an opportunity. And hopefully in this case that our portrait or picture that would be passed through, in this case, did you say you were going to use map making, but was it a map or was it a picture?
It was a picture. That was going to be my art creative.
Yeah, being the creative artist. That slides through the hole and we're left to know what would come of it.
So if we were playing the game and had more time, and let's say, for example, the family decided to trust us, right, and become our allies, then we would say we'd achieved the first milestone.
Yeah.
And so we want to do the milestone achievement thing real quickly. Of course.
So the idea would be there'd probably be this sort of challenge thing And once we realized that this could be an avenue to answer our problem of why we couldn't meet someone who wasn't afraid of us, which just means there'd be a number of successes that were needed to kind of beat the challenge. And then the challenge itself would be something abstractive like this family. And it would have a couple tags of its own to be a challenge for you, that I would challenge your reactions with the tags of the obstacle to force you to reroll successes. So I'd say that like they're stubborn, they're fearful. And then when you go to do something, until you start removing those with your successes and changing them, and then ultimately getting enough successes to defeat the challenge to win the milestone sort of thing.
Right. The
you would
challenge
kind
might
of-
be get the family to trust us.
Yes. Yeah.
And
And
we
like I
have to
said, they
roll
probably
many
have tags
times.
like stubborn and fearful and,
Gotcha.
now the idea here is then this milestone was created by Tanya. So very fitting to what you said, we'd make sure that you had your moment here. So with what little we said, what would this look like of if you were able to make this family with this picture sort of welcome you with open arms or helped you tunnel you out of here, right? Like some kind of, or defend your name or something.
Right.
What would be that cool moment that you'd want that spotlight in your character? What would that look like?
I don't think it'd be anything as heroic as like helping us escape, although surely that would be nice. But I'm just kind of envisioning like little kids' fingers going through the grate and reaching through, and then like me like reaching up, and that there's this little moment of like actual physical connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the curtains fall, right?
Yeah.
So we would have that beautiful moment, hopefully where the player goes, oh yeah, that was awesome. That's exactly what I wanted. And then we would reward our players for making their progress through the story.
Okay.
Of achieving a milestone towards their ultimate dream itself. So with the milestones, the first one's a little bit better than the rest because, I wanted them all to be the same, but playtesting just kind of made it seem that you play it a little bit. So you kind of want a little more modification to your character than the rest. So at the first milestone, you could, if you accomplished the goal, like it was your milestone, you could raise any of your health, your soul skill, or strategy rating by 1. It's up to a max of 8. So everyone else that's involved kind of gets to do the same thing, but not to as high of a degree. So for you, the only time you could get like an 8 on like a legendary sort of strategy would be when you accomplish your own milestones.
Oh, okay.
And then players can also add a relationship or turn a relationship into more of an organization as it evolves. They can add a new strategy, but it would start at beginner at 4, and then they'd work their way up. So that's just kind of an idea of what would happen with the two of you. So,
okay. Cool.
The question that's more pertinent to our conversation here is that at the end of every session, if we didn't hit a milestone, we'd also ask, did we get closer to our dream? Or did we end up farther from our dream? And we'd ask that on a person by person basis, right? Because they would kind of self-evaluate if they felt that their character should gain belief for being able to say that they felt truly alive, or they felt that they challenged themselves as a character, or if they felt that they stood up for what they believed in or trying to become the person they want to be. These would all reward you with belief, even if you didn't get a milestone. But on the opposite end, right? Like if they felt like, and this is a great time where you would detach from your character, right? This is not like I did this, unless if, or at least for the negative side,
right?
Maybe you'd say I did this if it was the reward, right? But if you're farther from your dream, are you looking at your character and saying, well, was my character, unable to act? Did frustration set in for them? Was it, were they stuck complaining, or was it something that felt inescapable that they were dealing with? So it kind of inserts a little more thought, and also the notion of like what that is for the other players to kind of see and hear, and maybe then be more prepared to kind of help or deal with that if they wanted to. So that's what happens at the end of a milestone. And then they go into the vision rolls again for the next one, and we move on forward with the story.
Wow, that was
Menachem,
awesome.
don't let us forget gratitude, but that's
Yeah.
the end. So
So yeah, so to get out of the magic circle, we normally have some questions. We'll skip those for the moment now. And we do the name, ritual, and reverse, let's do that real quickly, where we say our character name and then our player names. So,
Hi, I'm Gemma Fury.
hey, Gemma Fury.
and we say bye now, don't we?
Yeah, bye.
Mm.
And then your character.
Bye, Gemma.
Bye.
Bye. And then your player name.
Oh, and I'm Tanya.
Good night, Tanya.
Good night,
It's okay, we're
Tanya.
going to come back.
Good night.
Right.
And cut. That was it.
It'd be really funny though, and you're like, all right, peace out.
We got a few minutes to wrap up. I've been Roger Grolf.
Nice to meet you, Roger.
It was great to meet you, Roger.
And I am Menachem.
It's nice playing with you, Menachem.
It was fun. Super fun, Menachem.
And I am the guide.
Good night, guide. Thank
Good
you.
night, guide. Thank you so much.
My name is Pete.
Hey, Pete.
Hey, Pete. Thanks for being here.
That was super fun. That was awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
And while we're saying thank you to people, I do want to say thank you to Joe Brislane and the other folks at Mythical Family.
Really?
They said it's on our Twitch channel. A bunch of people followed, and I think maybe even be watching us tonight. So thank you,
Oh,
Joe, and the
sweet.
Mythical Family people. I think their thing is like a chosen family, but better.
Oh, that's neat.
I was
going to ask you,
they
what's
do a
a
bunch
mythical
of geek
family?
stuff,
That's awesome.
tabletop role-playing games, painting, model making, and
Cool.
you can check them out at Mythical Family here on Twitch. So yeah, the idea is that we could, if you're playing this in session, right, you can make the goals relevant to your day-to-day life. Like I often use the example of someone who's agoraphobic and has anxiety about being outside. They could play themselves with the goal is go outside. And the steps might be, journal, go to therapy, sit by the door, sit on the porch. It might be milestones, but it could also be slay the demon, right? And learn a new spell, and then face the demon could be like going outside, right? So you can convert these and you can play in games. And I found that in my work with people in sessions, you often pivot. Like you finish a milestone or you start working on a milestone and go, that's not actually, you realize the whole central dream is not even your central dream. Or you realize the milestone needs its own whole map to work through to achieve the milestone. So we do a lot of pivoting and changing direction in the games, in the games in session. And I want to put
Especially
out the call again.
if they're one player, there's no reason, there's no problem with that at all, right?
No,
it's
a
very
lot of
easy to be
pivoting.
like, let's dive deeper into milestone 1 and give it its 2 of its own.
And if you are someone out there who does work with people, therapist, coach, social worker, a spiritual director, clergy, who wants to learn about using Dreamchaser in session, please let me know. Let us know here, and we'll get some things. We'll start talking and make some things happen there.
Getting back to that question in the beginning, right? One of the things that this game was always about was gamifying goal setting. The idea that no dream is too big if we take the steps, as many steps maybe as necessary. But I always think about baby steps, right? Like Bill Murray thing, like baby steps.
Yes.
But it's just that, right? It's that like
Yeah.
one thing to the next thing. As human beings, we persevere, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of time. If you're moving in the right direction, you will eventually get there. That, and a very powerful thing in whether it's in therapy or going to the Olympics, is just visualizing what you want, or visualizing even success. For some of us, maybe that's the difficulty that we're having in life, is we're unable to see what this would look like, whether it's a happy day or whatever
Right.
it is for you, right?
Right.
So hopefully that's a big part of this game, is that no matter what your strategies are or what your tags would say about you as a person, whatever the method to your madness is, let's visualize success through that lens.
Yeah.
So
A couple of the
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say like this. Yeah, I don't know. I work with youth who are unhoused, and it's such a uh, it's such a process often. I mean, some youth come in and they have goals, like they know what they're about, they know what they're going to do. That's awesome. But a lot of times, you know, like such a traumatic situation that it's hard for people to once they are in a safe place to rest, right? Then they can't really think of their goals until then. But what a wonderful tool to be able to help people really kind of envision what they want. And sometimes it's hard for people to have that vision. So this really gives permission to do it. I talk a lot about how things are kind of side by side. You were talking a lot about it in also Menachem, where you pivot, right? It's not, this wasn't really the goal. This is actually the goal. It's just right next door, right? And sometimes you have to focus on this first one in order to know that this other one exists. So I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling about the power that I'm seeing in this.
Well, and like you said, I think that that's
opportunity.
the beauty. A lot of times people are like the dream, you know, they're like, we got to do the thing, you know, climb Mount Olympus or lift
Right.
Thor's hammer. But a lot of times it's just a story about that, maybe the pursuit of it. But, you know, just like a movie, a lot of times, you know, that movie could be about you thought you wanted it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you got there and it wasn't all it was, you know, that you learned something else about yourself, or, you know.
Yeah.
It's that fictional distance also that gives you a chance to not
Yes.
put your ego and defense in the way, to really find out the heart of the matter.
Yep.
I just wanted to share a couple. I had a player who had a lot of medical issues and lived longer than anyone ever expected, and was in her young 30s and starting to grow up and starting to move off from her parents' care. And there was a lot of infantilizing. And so her fictional character's goal was to learn to accept myself as I am, discover the source of my powers.
Ooh.
Right. And we played through that. We did 12 or 15 sessions. Another person who I worked with who was clergy, their dream was integrate spirituality into my daily life. Right. So we spent 6 weeks or so working on the steps to do that, and finding out that a lot of the stuff was already happening, but it was just reaffirmed and introduced some new ideas to this soon to be clergy person.
That's awesome. Yeah. Sometimes we need to be shown that things are happening because we don't really see it. Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, it feels like we're getting into some meaty discussion now, but we're also over our time.
We are.
Thanks you all for sticking with us.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kayla, for doing back end.
Yeah. Thank you, Kayla.
Tune in next time, March 24th.
Yes.
And Alan Turner, creator of Edragor,
Awesome.
Tribal Fantasy Horror, will be with us to discuss. And we'll discuss and play his game, Edragor. We'll tell you more about Alan when you see him next time. He's an incredible person and
awesome human being. Yeah.
Awesome human being and a dear friend of mine.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Pete. This was super great. And
thank you so much for having me. It's so fun to revisit this. Like like Menachem probably knows, like the first print run is practically gone. You know, I've been putting all the alerts out of like, go to imagininggames.com, get it if you want it, because they're like, there's only a few left.
Right.
Yeah.
And now suddenly I'm like, do I need a second edition? I was kind of waiting, you know, like, so we'll see. And obviously it's a big motivator for our one-on-one therapy version, because clearly, so anyway.
Yeah.
It'll give me a timetable. I'm good at that timetable.
Yeah, there you go.
I need external support.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys want to get it, please pick it up at imagininggames.com and do it now.
And if you're interested in Chew, like we said, you can pre-order that now too. There's some cool
collector's
editions signed by the comic creators that
Ooh.
when that pre-order is done, they're gone. So get them.
Ooh. Awesome.
All
Well, thanks
right.
everybody for joining us.
See you next time.
All right.
This was so fun.
Yeah, it was.